"I years had been from home," Emily Dickinson. In the poem, "I years had been from home," Dickinson describes the moment of return home from a long absence. Paradoxically, given that returning to home is usually linked to feelings of renewed comfort and familiarity, the speaker here is overcome by anxiety and fear as she is afraid of the changes she might encounter once she opens the door of the house. Through this poem, Dickinson highlights the complex sentiments of fear and anxiety of returning home after a long period of time. The poem starts with the line, "I years had been from home," which references the title. The grammatical deviation and the use of unusual syntax of the line highlight the speaker's anxiety and discomfort of returning home. The distance between "I" and "home" makes the two subjects seem distant as they have been parted by years. This establishes a sense of detachment and isolation between the speaker and her home, suggesting a sense of alienation as the persona returns to something she has been estranged from for a long time. Throughout the poem, Dickinson conjures a sense of panic and doubt in her return, which is conveyed by the speaker's fear of entering the door. The fact that the speaker has returned home but dared not enter the door shows that it is a gateway to her fear and things she does not want to face. This anxiety from the speaker symbolizes the door as the direction to her fear and makes it an intimidating object. The constant back and forth of the persona's inner struggle to enter the house highlights her dread and anxiety to face her fear. Next, Dickinson reveals the source of the speaker's fear with the line, "Lest a face I never saw before." The poet juxtaposes the feeling of comfort from the connotations of home to the sense of isolation as her old house is now potentially occupied by strangers. As she becomes aware that she no longer belongs to her house, the door physically separates her from the interior space but also emotionally disconnects her. The frightening feeling towards the door is continued with the rest of the poem. With the line, "I laughed a crumbling laugh." We often associate the adjective, crumbling, with ruin, remnants of the past, which is appropriate for this poem as ruins are visual proof of the effects of time. Therefore, the oxymoronic phrase, "a crumbling laugh," uses synesthesia to suggest a half-hearted echo of her past joy. The sound seems almost sinister in nature. She laughs at how strange it is to fear a door, so her laughter does not correspond with happiness or humor. Instead, the laughter stems from her dread and the uncanny situation in which she finds herself. This reversal in using a sign of joy to signify dread adds to the eeriness of the scene that haunts both the speaker and the reader. The breaking down of the speaker does not occur solely with the crumbling laugh. We see it in Dickinson's depiction of the speaker as well. She is in pieces: face, ear, hand, and fingers. This synecdoche of dismembered body parts symbolizes the person as a whole is broken apart. It brings tension but also dehumanizes the speaker of the poem as if she is less valuable or powerful than the objects she has personified. On a basic level, the divided body parts are merely dismembered body parts, which, in the context of the poem, is both sad and frightening. Since the poem is in the first person, it is suggested that the speaker does not perceive herself as a whole person, perhaps because some parts of her are missing in her old home. With the line, "Second like an ocean rolled and broke against my ear," the poet uses unconventional sensory language to describe an image of memories and thoughts coming back. Dickinson utilizes a powerful image of nature to visually display the sentimental feelings returning to the speaker's memory. She compares time as memories with the ocean that often stays quiet at still but when it begins to move could be overwhelming, plays on the image of the ocean as vast and deep and mysterious, an unknown possible danger that represents an element of unknown inside behind the door. Dickinson also personifies the door with the phrase, "the awful door." It is usually an inanimate object, but here it is brought to life in the speaker's mind to emphasize how fearful she is. The door, therefore, changes and becomes antagonistic in her mind throughout the poem. As if that is the only thing that gives her strength, making us believe that she is clinging to this feeling of dread for support, then she pursues to confess, "I lingered with before," suggesting that she always felt this way. It makes one think that she is dragging this fear with her, and although it is weighing her down, suggested by the pauses, she still clutches onto them as if she cannot live in their absence. These fears may also act like a drug she is addicted to and cannot live without. It may be toxic, but it is the mere toxicity she is dependent upon. Moreover, the verb lingered also has a powerful effect, as it gives an unsettling image and eerie look to the situation, adding to the element of dread and deadliness. The pause after this line shows us that the lingering from before will remain until she opens the door. The nouns used in the poem can be sorted into concrete and abstract nouns. Most of them are capitalized except for the concrete noun, ear. The concrete nouns appear mostly at the end of each line for each stanza and have an article in front of them which gives them an independent identity. There is one abstract noun in each stanza except for the last, showing that the writer is relying on the first due to her uncertainty but at the end finds her conclusion. The capitalized nouns are all expressing her anxiety and fear when returning home. There are numerous caesuras and enjambments throughout the poem, for example, I fitted to the laths, my hand, with trembling care. The enjambment creates a sense of horror, as for instance the line that ends with face. The use of the dash makes the lines become fragmented and often lack a full stop. With the use of this, Dickinson presents a sense of confusion, doubt, and fear leads to interrupted thoughts. The at the end of the poem shows that the poem has not ended yet, and the story is incomplete, suggesting that there is no end to this cycle and that the persona will find herself staring at the door once again in a matter of time. Moreover, the final stanza of this poem shows the time she takes to bring in a change. Her fear changes into panic, and from static, she finally moves, runs in this case. In the final line, she refers to her home to house, showing that she realizes the moment of change. As house describes the physical aspects of the building, home contains more sentimental qualities to it, and the fact that the speaker ends with house suggests her realization that the past she had will never return. The final awareness that this is a house and not her home strikes her, which is why she runs away as if she is a thief who has stolen something from the house. Perhaps she has chosen escape and has not surrendered to the horrors, which she may feel she is supposed to do, and that may be the reason she runs away. She may be gasping for a less toxic environment, where she is free from decision-making, or she may be gasping for sanity. In conclusion, taken as a whole, this poem suggests that the speaker wishes not to burden her family with her return and rather than risk her re-entry into either a stranger's home, which would suggest her family left her behind, or her familial home, which suggests she dreads a resumption of her former role, she simply runs away. This poem, then, can be taken as a battle within the speaker between the life she has made for herself while traveling and her former life within her family unit. Instead of running the risk of breaking either and ruining her current state, the speaker instead runs off without having put her initial fear to the test. Though not as powerful as some of her other poetry, this poem is a superb example of Dickinson's ability to make a small thing, opening a door to a house, loom larger than it might through her depiction of the emotional toll which this action would require.